Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, June the 6th, 2021. And this is Let's Talk About Jesus. So, you are welcome for joining us today, wherever you're joining us from. We want to say thank you for keep watching, for keep sharing, and for keep listening to Let's Talk About Jesus, where we discuss issues and challenges of life. And of course, today I bring to you again Mr. Femi Odedeyi. Thank you, sir, for coming on this program today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And I appreciate your having me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So, Mr. Odedeyi, we are going to be, as usual, discuss the issues and challenges of life. That is what Let's Talk About Jesus do. And today is of no exception, as we are going to be diving into politics for our today's conversation. And so, for the purpose of whoever would like to have a topic for this conversation, we are focusing on Nigeria, and Nigeria is on fire. Who will rescue her? Nigeria is on fire. Who will rescue her? So with the unrest that has been happening, just for the purpose of the viewers, this title actually has came about before the overnight incident that happened in Nigeria. So to say Nigeria on fire, to me right now, I think is actually an understatement, but we're going to use the title simply because it has been placed before the incident that unfolded. So, with the unrest and the indirect war in the land, there is a need for intervention. And my question is, where is our Moses? Where is the Moses of our time? I'm sure those that are from Nigeria would have known by now that the incident that was unfortunate that took place, the most recent one, hopefully none has happened after that, which happened in Oyo State in Igagan, Ibarapa area. May the soul of those that has been killed during this rest in peace. So today on Let's Talk About Jesus, we are going to be talking about Nigeria on fire, who will rescue her. And of course, Mr. Odedeyi, just give us your opening statement today as to why Nigeria is on fire. That is a topic that I came up for, but I'm sure that you will have an opening statement that will be fit in that direction. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, why is Nigeria on fire? Nigeria is on fire because it is placed on an oven, a cooking stove. It was created to be on fire, and it had been sustained to be on fire. It's just that the consciousness of the fire is now being experienced in a more direct manner, especially when we say thanks to social media and all the rest, where what happened overnight is already a worldwide is of worldwide knowledge. Whereas previously, before the era of the social media, it might take days and views and stuff like that. But more importantly, I want to say that most of the African countries, all African countries, had been on fire since the time of independence. And the question is, who, like you said, I'm sure we'll get back to that, the Moses that will take them out of the fire, or that will take us out of the fire. I remember an event it happened in 1969, and it was in Mozambique. And in a sense, that was one of the events that launched me into African issues. I read a newspaper report. It was a newspaper report that the Portuguese soldiers, there's a village called Wiriyamu in Mozambique. there was the Portuguese were the colonial powers at that time, and they went into that village and they rounded up everybody, men, women, children, old and young, and they killed all of them. But a 9-month-old baby survived the killing, and the baby crawled out of her mother's back and was crawling away, a 9-month-old baby. And this Portuguese soldier saw the baby and went and used his boots to crush the baby's head in a village in Wiriyamu in Mozambique. So at that time when I read it, it was like, all these people must be destroyed. I mean, we must just fight them. Anyway, I use that to show that the case of the African in the African context is that we have always been on fire. Unfortunately, attempts to douse the fire or to take out of the fire have so far not succeeded. Despite that, people are not keeping quiet. And for the incident that happened in Igogo area in Barapa yesterday overnight, is a textbook description of what had been happening in Nigeria, in Benue State, in Plateau State. These are the playbook that they are using. And then the question will now be, well, we don't have the colonial powers with us now. We have our own local indigenous rulers presiding over this carnage. So the question is, why is it so? Why is it that we have a state, a government, a country that does not respect the humanity of its citizens? Yeah, that is the description of the fire, that the peoples of these countries, their human dignities, their humanities are not recognized and not respected. Because they don't recognize us as human beings, they can now institute different policies to sustain that non-recognition. And that is what the fire is all about. And that is what the problem with Nigeria is, that they don't recognize you as a human being, even though they call you a citizen. They give you a passport. They give you anything, a NIN or BVN or anything like that. But you are not a human being. You are just a thing that can be used and manipulated. That's why they allow, and that's why these things happen, and that's why they seemingly appear to be helpless, and that is not the case. So that's the fire. As to the question, I hope that's not a too long introductory statement, but I think that captures what I'm saying.
All right. Thank you, sir, for that opening as to why Nigeria is on fire. And of course, today we are on Let's Talk About Jesus, where we discuss issues and challenges of life. Usually, of recent, for those who do not know, you can go to www.solomonoluwabiyi.com. And I wrote a piece there talking about ransom for many. Of course, it was written as a Christian perspective as to one of the reasons why Jesus came. He came because he happened to be the ransom for many. So in this case, in Nigeria's case, what is the ransom that Nigerians need to pay in order to be set free from insecurity, poor infrastructure, unemployment, kidnapping, terrorism, killing of innocent, bad and poor governance, and things like that? What is the ransom that Nigerians need to pay?
Well, one, we don't need to pay any other ransom. Our ransom had been paid by our Lord Jesus Christ. He said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me and I have been anointed to free the captives, heal the sick, and all that. So he had already paid the ransom. He had already stated why he is here. Now, not everybody in Yoruba land or in Nigeria believe in Jesus Christ, which is okay. But for those of us who do believe in him, he has paid the ransom. And if you look at, I think it is Numbers 13, when Moses, when they were going to send some people to spy on Jericho, Caleb and Joshua and the rest of them, and they were picking people. And then Moses selected all the people that he was going to post, and then they asked God whether they should send them, and God said, yeah, send them if you want to send them. In other words, God was telling them at that time, I have already made provisions for you. If you want to send people, send people. It won't stop the provisions I have made. If you don't want to send them, don't send them. It's up to you. You can do anything you want, but I have made provisions for you to capture this place. So that's why I said, flowing from there, we now talk about why Jesus came and what he has said. And for those of us who believe in him, that the ransom had already been paid. But the question is, are we keying into that ransom? So when we gather together, and we gather together in our different congregations or churches or whatever we choose to call them, and then because we are too particular about our individual or communal situations, and for those of us who are in the diaspora, especially from Nigeria, most of us, we don't like to admit it, but the reality was that most of us ran away from circumstances we didn't like. And we used to want to compare ourselves with the early apostles who went in different directions because of persecution and thereby spreading the gospel. And then we say, yeah, we came here to come and spread the gospel because they brought it first and we are now reporting them and all kinds of stuff like that. But most of us don't want to recognize that reality, that we were forced to live where we are. And that force was not simply because we are Christians, it was because as Christians, we refuse to acknowledge our sonship in God. And why I said that is this. Our sonship in God, I believe is in Romans, which says the entire creation is earnestly waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. When Jesus Christ came and saw the situation on ground, anywhere he went, he cures, he heals, he admonishes, he teaches based on the concrete situation. So in the same light as we call ourselves the sons of God, I want to manifest as the sons of God. When we are faced with a situation, we need to teach, to heal, to throw light, because we are the salt of the earth. We are the light that will show the way. So that is what we should be doing, and not just leaving one place of comfort or discomfort and going to a place of comfort, making sure that we enjoy all the benefits of that comfort and then ascribe it to God's blessing. Of course, God will bless his own children anywhere that he wants to, that we are, and we will continue to do that. That even when the children of Israel were in exile, God also blessed them, and they were, multiplying and all the rest. But at the same time, we will be reducing the impact and the influence of God, not only on our lives, but also on our communities, because we are not making an impact on the questions that confront us, that confronts our community, that confronts our people. And if you look at the question of Moses, and it's said that over a period of time, the children of Israel have been crying to God for salvation. Who is going to save us? Who is going to do this? Who is going to do that? Until Moses came, God called Moses and said, Moses did what he had to do, and then he came back and all that. So what we are saying now is that if we recognize it, if we say it, we preach it, we sermonize over it, but do we really believe it in order so that we can act it out? If we say Jesus Christ has paid our ransom, he has paid the ransom, then let us live it out. That is to live, to experience it, live. Let us live it out, that our ransom had been paid and we need to exercise that payment. And how do we exercise that payment? We see the situation as it is, and we know it is not godly. This is not God's will for us. He's redeemed, he's ransomed. So the question is, what do we do about it? Like I said, the example of Moses and Joshua and all the rest of them. God just told Moses, well, if you want to send spies, go ahead. I have no hand in it. I've already given you what needs to be done. If you send them, fine. If you don't want to send them, fine. But that will be done. In the same manner, God has said the ransom has been paid. Now, do we want to move forward with it? It's up to us. Do we not want to move forward with it? It's up to us. If we still want to start asking God whether we should move forward with it or not, God will just say, Shebi, I've told you what you need to do. Most of us may not be aware. I mean, everybody will claim that God has told him this, God has told him that. They will go into prophecies and predictions and all the rest. This is what will happen, and this will. So when all those things happen, they say, you see, God is talking to me. But the question is, all those things that happen, are they related to the ransom that was paid? So if you make a prediction as to who will be governor, or who will die tomorrow, or who will not die tomorrow, which king is going to come down in a motor accident, or whether there will be train crashes, or whether this and that, is that in consonance with the ransom that was paid? If the ransom was paid to avoid somebody dying in a road accident or train accident, or becoming governor, or becoming president, that is not a ransom, because whether somebody will rule, whether the ruler will be evil or good, depends on all other circumstances. But when we are talking about the ransom, that ransom has been paid, we must be conscious of what that ransom is all about. When our freedom is threatened, either in terms of job insecurity, in terms of unemployment that we are talking about, all these things did not happen overnight. They did not happen overnight. When they introduced the structural adjustment program, nearly all the graduates ran away from the country. So if you are faced with a situation now, you have to run away, and you know that there's a solution, because where you ran to meant that there was a solution in that place. So why are you not applying that solution to where you ran away from? Why are you not making the connection? It's only that you ran away from it, although you may not admit it. Maybe they will say, God asked me to move. Okay, God asked you to move from Nigeria to America, and you are now in America. Why did God ask you to come to America? To come and make life better for yourself, and then send dollars home. When dollar crashes, you'll be happy. When it rises, you will not be happy, because you can be a millionaire today in Naira terms and become hopeless tomorrow in Naira terms when the things fluctuate. And these are the things that are being determined by human beings like you and me. So we who are supposed to be the light have become the conduit. I'm going to use a strong word now. I'm not accusing anybody, but you have become a conduit for evil that is being perpetrated on our land. Can I?
Thank you, Mr. Odedeyi. That was powerful. Of course, if you are just joining us, this is Let's Talk About Jesus, where we discuss issues and challenges of life. And today we are talking about Nigeria is on fire, who will rescue her. So, Mr. Odedeyi, again, on this program, we have had different kind of solutions being different kind of solutions are being projected here and there. People has talked about let's go back to 1963 constitution, constitutional review, throw out the constitution, let's write another one. It was not written by the people. Let's have one regional government and let's restructure, even though that is a different time to different people. So we've have different kind of solution being proposed right and left. And we are where we are right now in Nigeria. What do you think? Now, of course, I know you yourself have your proposed solution to Nigeria. But before we get to that point, I would like us to talk briefly about the 1963 Constitution, if that is possible, and also the one regional government. So I want to hear what your view is on the importance of having one regional government for the Yoruba state. What is the importance?
Okay. Yeah. It has it's an what I would call existential importance. One, we are Yoruba people. That's why, when they say we want Yoruba nation now, we want Yoruba nation now, we are already a nation. We have lingual, cultural, anthropological, even cosmological unity that defines a nation. So we are already a nation. What we don't have is a government of our own, which are two different things. So the importance of the regional government is to allow Yoruba people to define how they want to govern themselves. We were not the ones that decided whether we were going to have 6 states or how many local governments we were going to have or this and that. They were imposed on us. And that is why you find all these problems rising from left, right, and center. And I will just make a little detour into history that, okay, now we are talking about, let's talk about Jesus and its impact on the nations. When the Reformation was going to start, that was the Christian Reformation, when Martin Luther, all Europe was under what they call the Holy Roman Empire at that time. When what was this place? Hagia Sophia in Constantinople was overrun by the whatever they call them, the Saladins and all the rest. Actually, it's a very interesting. I'm not making a direct connection. I'm just pointing out some of the dots that when they attacked the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, now known as Istanbul, they were defending the place. But at a certain point in time, it was said that the defenders of the Hagia Sophia saw a cloud moving out of the Hagia Sophia. And they assumed that it was the Holy Spirit that was leaving the place. And that made them despondent. And that was one of the causes why they lost the place. So there must be a reason, if it is true, that the Holy Spirit left the place. Why I brought that in is this, that when Martin Luther was doing his own contest, he translated the New Testament from the Greek to German. The German language was non-existent at that time. They were all speaking Latin and the Roman languages at that time. But he bypassed Romans and translated the New Testament into German. And that was what fueled the rise of German ethnography and writing and language, and ultimately the German state. We can see, we have in history that, what's this name? Bishop Ajayi Crowther translated Yoruba into, English language, English Bible into Yoruba language, and all the rest. And, so you can see the similarities and stuff. But why that is important is this, that when you have, that's why again that we are a nation, we are, all these things. When we say Jesus has paid our ransom, it meant the liberation of everybody, every nation on earth. And it's also in the Bible, was it in Numbers 24 or something, that the grace of God is above, as long as I live, my grace will be on all the earth. The same thing in Titus, that the grace of God is upon all the flesh, all the people. So that implies definitively that as a people, you must not allow yourself to be disorganized by anyone else, which is essentially what self-determination is all about. So when we connect all these dots, then you will discover that even if we, the Yoruba, say we want every village in Yoruba land to be a state, that should be our choice. We can, nobody can now turn around to say, okay, this is Western region or Western area, you must have so many states. That's not their business, that's our business. And when the anti-colonial movement was going to start, we venerate Awolowo today, not simply because of what he did in the Western region and all the rest, but what he did before the Western region came in. Because if he did not do it before the Western region came about, he will not know what to do with the Western region. So what did he do? He went into history and said, okay, who are we? We are Yoruba people, we are this, we are that, we are that, we are that, we are that. Ah, okay. If that is the case, if we are going to be independent in Nigeria, then every nation must be able to do what God has appointed them to do, or what God has given them the ability to do. So we must organize Nigeria or that colony at that time on an ethnic, lingual basis, ethno-national basis. That is the origin of all this federalism and all the rest of it. So that was what enabled him to start the Ibadan, what they call Yoruba School of History, which now became Ibadan School of History at the University of Ibadan. That was what encouraged him to do all these things. More importantly, before him, we have Ladejo Stone, Reverend Ladejo Stone. We had Mojola Agbebi. These are Christians, ministers of God in the English and American traditions, who also became involved in these matters, that they started the whole process within Christendom of saying that, look, we are Christians, we are also Yoruba people, and God has appointed this for us and all that. So they knew who they were, and they were able to influence their communities at the time they lived based on what they did. And that is part of the advantages we are enjoying today. Because if Awolowo had failed in bringing about that regional government for Western region, we will not be talking about Yoruba land today, and we will not even be able to say we are Yoruba people. So the first thing, and of course, if you look at the history of the Jews and the experiences and all that, even when they were under foreign occupation in their own land, we know of Esther, we know of Mordecai, we know that they made sure that their people were given special consideration, Nehemiah, all the rest of them, that the king will say, okay, what do you want for your people? Mordecai obtained all the ceremonies, all the things, conventions and traditions of the Jewish people must be respected and all that. And so it is part of our redemption to exercise that right. And that is, I mean, of course, that is not saying we are going about fighting other people. We are simply saying, just as we, and that was, if you look at what the Awolowo people did, that was why they advocated for all the regions in Nigeria, that look, let everybody have their own thing. So that is the essence of self-determination, to have that expression that God has created us to have dominion over everything that he has created. And that's why God said, I think it's in Psalm 8 or something, you have put everything under my feet, under the feet of man. So why are we now subjecting ourselves that that everything that is created is under our feet, but we are now subjecting ourselves to the feet of another person? So that is from a theological, I mean, not completely, I'm not preaching, but I'm just saying that that informs on the need for a regional government, and that is from a theological, from a political, from an economic, and even cultural angle, because that is what makes the world go round, actually. If we have when they had it was because we had the regional government that enabled the setting up of Obafemi, I mean, University of Ife, that they now reduced to Obafemi Awolowo University. Awolowo Ogunfunrare did not name it after himself. And somebody from somewhere in Nupeland came and said, call it Obafemi Awolowo University. So that is the kind of insult that we have been going. I'm not saying, of course, we should celebrate Obafemi Awolowo, but now what Awolowo conceived as a global Yoruba enterprise, you now reduce it to Obafemi Awolowo as a person, which is an insult on Yoruba people. Anyway, where I'm going is that when they designed that university, he made sure that they should study Portuguese at the University of Ife. Why? Because they said there are Yoruba people in Bahia in Brazil, and they are the majority, the non-European people in Brazil are Yoruba people. So when they have Portuguese studies in University of Ife, they will be able to link up with the Yoruba in Brazil as a global people, and we can see how things could have developed. So that is the kind of thing that a regional government will bring. It will reassert our humanity, and it will reassert our place in God's plan for humanity.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir, for pointing out the importance of regional government. So when we look at the present day government or present day political system in Nigeria, is it possible to achieve one regional government? We know the importance of it now. We know if it can happen, it will be of great benefit. But how possible is that to be achieved in the current political system of the country?
Yeah, it is quite possible, and everything actually is pointing in that direction. Okay. Every time, even let's limit ourselves to 1999. Every time they want to have an election or government come, there will be one crisis or the other. They will say one party is doing this, and then they will remove the party and put another party in. So it's an unending crisis. But at this time, the crisis has reached such a point that only two options are possible. One, that all the nationalities, Yoruba ni o, Igbo ni o, Hausa ni kinikan, they will surrender their existentialism into what we now call Fulani hegemony. It will be sorry that, or everyone takes care of their own existential prerogatives and live the way God has created them to live. why did I say so? The post-colonial Nigerian state is moving in that direction. That is why you have all these crises, all the rest of it. You have all these things in place so that at the end of the day, whether it is a security state, that is, they will declare a state of emergency and then say, blah, 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 they are suspending this, suspending that, put some government in place, which also has happened before in history, and we know the outcome. The southern governors, they said they wanted a national dialogue. Femi and some of the other leaders, they are saying, let us renegotiate the terms of our existence. Obasanjo is saying, let us have a new federation. All these things, and I understand, what's his name, General Buhari or President Buhari said that the Igbo people should, instead of fighting and all that, they can organize themselves politically and get a state within a state, which means they can have a Biafra, if they want it, but
so on the President Muhammadu Buhari's statement, which I'm sure, of course, he never provided clarification as to what it meant, but I'm sure that he knows at the back of his mind that election doesn't really matter in Nigeria. So that statement he made, I think he made it out of the fact that the news anchor that asked him the statement, he's just trying to look for a way of escape to end that interview and move on with life. That's why he actually didn't want to watch the video. The lady anchor was going to show him the video where the people are being shot at, but he said he doesn't want to because the solution he had that he project, it was not. I don't think he believed in it himself.
Yeah, he might not.
Before he become a president, he probably believed that. But now, I don't believe that he believed it.
Okay, maybe he wasn't even thinking when he said it and so. But you see, elections matter and they can matter, and this is why I said so. When, let's say, like we are doing and we are advocating, and we say we want to conduct a Yoruba referendum in Yoruba land to be conducted by our state houses of assembly after they have passed it into law and all that, it will be very difficult for anybody to come and rig the results of that election if there is sufficient mobilization for it. You know why I said so? Those who rig elections are also part of the people. And in the reality of rigging election is that if you are not popular in the area where the election is being rigged, you cannot rig. Even if you pay for it. If you pay thugs, if they pay thugs to go and rig in an area, and the man that they are rigging for is not a popular man, maybe he didn't distribute more money than the rest or something like that, but there's someone on ground that is contesting against that person that the people will prefer for whatever reason. They cannot rig successfully. That is why they end up fighting. They will either fight and cancel it or ensure that their own man becomes the winner in that area. So if we have a Yoruba conducted referendum and Yoruba people say this is where we want to go, it will be very difficult for anybody to come and rig us out of that direction. Number one, it is not the central government that is going to conduct the election. So there is no need for the presence of any federal agency in that election. It is only we ourselves that will do that. Now, we want to conduct an election in some kind of village somewhere in Yoruba land, and the people there are manning the polling booths, and the people have already said this is where we want to go. And you now find another Yoruba person coming with his thugs from the same community to want to change the results. I will not want to go into what will happen to that kind of person. So what we are saying in effect is whether Buhari means it or not, all these agitations predated Buhari. Even the Biafra agitation and all that, they had been on ground before Buhari came to power. So it is not what Buhari said or did he say that is fueling whatever it is they are doing. But what we are saying is that let us use that possibility, not his statement too, that yes, our people want this thing, and in the world also, in the international community, they acceptable. Of course, when it comes to force, they can fight it out. That we have voted for this thing. That is the expression of sovereignty, whether you delegate it or you do it directly. When you have done that, they can't turn it back. Of course, they will try to turn it back. That's the nature of political contest. They will try to turn it back. And of course, it's up to you to determine whether you allow them to turn it back or not. So in this context, it is quite possible and very possible, and in fact necessary, if not mandatory, for such an exercise to take place, because you are exercising your legitimacy, you are creating a valid environment for what you are proposing, for what you are agitating for. And then when it now comes to a contest within those who want to continue to oppress you, and you who desire to be free from that oppression, only the Yoruba say, I hope I'm right. So we have a solid ground for what we are about to embark upon. And therefore, we should not when he's made the statement, let's even assume that he didn't want to. It is because he had been faced with a fait accompli. That's why he's been talking all over the place. He doesn't know what to. Because when you are faced with a situation you cannot control, you'll be talking scattered like he did. But that's the general context.
All right, so we're going to come back to the issue of referendum in a moment.
Yes.
But I want us to talk about 1963 Constitution.
Okay.
I've heard it said several times, let's go back to 1963 Constitution. Let's start to use that Constitution and all sort of stuff like that. My question is, how possible is it for Nigeria to return to the 1963 Constitution, and what difference will it make to the present-day Nigeria system of government?
Okay. Number one, well, if they want to return to the 1963 Constitution, they can always find ways out of doing that. But the bottom line is that the 1963 Constitution is not the solution. It's actually the problem. And I will state why. But why it won't, because it is the problem, it cannot provide any ground for resolving what is currently going on. Why is it a problem? The 1963 Constitution was promulgated and given and backdated to 1960, which was the date of independence. Among the provisions of the 1963 Constitution was that the regional premier can ask the prime minister to come and dissolve a government in the region. We don't want that. Why should our premier call the prime minister to come and dissolve our government? If the premier loses our confidence, then he should resign. If we lose his confidence, then we should kick him out. It's not the business of the prime minister to come and do. But that's what the 1963 Constitution says. Number two, we used to have an appeal court as the final court in the Western region. The 1963 Constitution removed that appeal court and made it a Nigerian appeal court or court of appeal or whatever it is they want to call it. Now, at that time also, there was the Privy Council. The Privy Council sits in London, and that is where the final appeal goes to. They removed that Privy Council and created what we now know as the Nigerian Supreme Court. Why did they do all these things? In 1962, 63, they started trying to, put Awolowo in jail and all the rest and all the rest. So in order to give legal backing to what they were doing, that was how they went to create the 1963 Constitution, to give legal effect to the jailing of Awolowo. Awolowo had appealed to the Privy Council in London against the treasonable felony trial, and he won in London. But because of that, when they now created the Supreme Court, they brought the case to the Nigerian Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ratified the conviction. That's one. Two, the governors and all that, the Privy Council had already ruled against Akintola in the Western region. And Akintola asked Tafawa Balewa to come and remove Adesoji Aderemi, which he did by virtue of that 1963 Constitution. Then the 1963 Constitution gave room. Now, when they were negotiating the creation of regions, the Awolowo people were saying they must create at least 3 more regions in Nigeria for a balance. The Midwest region, the Calabar, Ogoja, Rivers region, and the Middle Belt region in the north. So they will have equal number. And that to do that, it is the Regional House of Assembly that will pass the law to organize how they were going to be created. But having nullified that 1960 Constitution by the 1963 Constitution, they now allow the House of Representatives in Lagos, that is the Central House of Representatives, which was controlled by the alliance between the NCNC and the MPC, to unilaterally declare which area they want to create a region in. And of course, the obvious area is the Western region. And then they created the Midwestern region out of the Western region to reduce the power of the Western region, while they did nothing with the Calabar Ogoja area in the River State, in the Eastern region, and of course the Middle Belt region in the North. So everything about the 1963 Constitution was designed to destroy the Western region. So to even say that we should go back to it is just to look at the thing in the surface, because it's a regional thing. That's number one. Number two, it was not the 1963 Constitution or even the 1960 Constitution that created the regional government we have been talking about. It was the regional government that was established between 1951 and 1959 that led to the Independence Constitution in 1960 and the subsequent 1963 Constitution. So you are to say that we should go back to 1963 because we are regions is like you are saying the regions created, the Constitution created the regions, when it was the other way round, that it was the regions that existed first and then the constitutions follow. Because without the people, what kind of constitution are you making? So I said it is possible. Yeah, they will want to go to 1963 and they will do the mago and say, okay, we have this thing and all that. But that's not where the solution is. That is why we embarked on the referendum by the nationalities. And if you connect with what I have said, you will discover that when initially the British had a unitary constitution, what they call the Richards, I believe it was the Richards in 1947 and all that. And then the Awolowo group said, no, Nigeria is made up of many nations, many nationalities, and you must recognize it. Azikiwe in the NCNC and the North, they said, no, we don't have any nations. We are all Nigerians. We are all this, that there are no minorities in Nigeria. And Awolowo kept telling them there are minorities in Nigeria. When they went for the Constitutional Conference, it was the Awolowo group that brought along the Ijaw people. Say, okay, let the Ijaw people speak for themselves. And the Ijaw people spoke for themselves. And the British set up what they call the Willings Commission at that time to look at the question of the minorities. And they said, yes, minorities must have their own regions. So it was all these things that culminated in the regional system of government, the federalism that we had, and which eventually led to 1960. So if we are now saying we are people, we are nations, then it is left for us to first of all determine our own mode of existence, agree among ourselves. That was what they did in Kiriji now when they ended the Yoruba civil wars at Kiriji. They all got together and said, okay, we are not fighting each other again. This is how we are going to be living together and all that. And then British came and did what they did. So that's the first essence. And again, I will connect it to the ransom, that when Christ paid the ransom, he did not pay it for us to become subjected to another thing except to him. Even if all the people in Yoruba land do not agree with him or do not accept him as their Lord and Savior, that is whoever doesn't or whoever does. That's his own name. But the thing is that he has paid the ransom for us to be free from subjugation. The Lord has anointed me to free the captives, to lead them to liberty and all that. So we have that liberty to determine where we want to go. And this is not for anybody. Now we can now exercise something. Okay, let's live together. Under what conditions do we live together? We state the conditions. So that is the importance of the referendum, of the Yoruba referendum, to be conducted by Yoruba people themselves through their state houses of assembly. And it's not the business of the federal government. If the federal government or central government now says it is this and that, and we will deal with that when we get to that point. It's not an issue. It's like saying Christ has paid the ransom for me, and I believe it. And somebody now comes and say he wants to take that ransom away. And it's left for me to either give it to him or tell him to take a hike, as they say. So it is the quest is a challenge to us today. The Awolowo people have done their own, and they have whatever it is, but we take it from there and then say, okay, what are we faced with today that will allow us to take certain steps? And within that context, there are so many different ways. The one that we know is what we are doing. And if I say I'm a Christian, I must be able to situate what I'm doing within the context of the ransom that had been paid. And if I cannot make that connection, it means I've not really understood what the ransom is all about, regardless of my material circumstance. And that is the challenge that we are faced with today. So when Christians say we should pray for leaders, we should do this, we should do that, we should not, we are when at least we are all here when one leader wanted to use the same passage to perpetuate himself in office. He just suddenly woke up that day and said, but Roman said we should pray for leaders, so pray for me. Who is going to? So when, the goodness of God is in everything that God does. So everything that concerns God must contain a goodness. So when he says pray for leaders, he said because they are supposed to do good. It's there. I don't remember the exact thing, but it's there. It's good. If there is no good, it is not of God.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So with that being said, when you were speaking, you did mention the owl in our lower time, that with the issue of minority.
Yeah.
And there has been some people clamoring for the issue of minority when we look at the current agitation that is going on. And I have two of them. One is religion related, and the other one is blank, simply saying they are minority. So you have some people that comes up and says they don't feel safe to have to live within the Yoruba because they are Muslim.
Okay.
Which I need you to speak about. So they're saying, look, right now Nigeria is a secular state, so we are okay because it's a secular state. However, if they give them Yoruba nation, we don't feel safe because we are Muslim. That is the religion part. The other part says that, hey, we know that we are minority, and therefore, if you give Yoruba nation, we're going to suffer more than what we are suffering right now. So we don't want Yoruba nation. What do you say to those two type of people?
Okay, let me take the religious, the Islamic one first. Again, it says, the Bible says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because they refuse knowledge. If you continue the thing, they say, because they refuse knowledge, I will do this, I will do this, I will do that. See, it was Awolowo's government. Awolowo was a Christian, and many people in his government were Christians and stuff. But it was Awolowo's government that started and established the first Pilgrims Welfare Board for Muslims in the Western region. That is number one. Number two, Yoruba Muslims have been very, very active in Yoruba issues. In studies after studies, it has been shown that if you want to develop your society, you must use your mother tongue as the form of education. That is why you have all these developed countries. They have only one language, not many languages that we speak in Nigeria. But who started it in Nigeria? Aliyu Babatunde Fafunwa, who was a Muslim, started this whole thing about mother tongue education with his demonstration school in Ife, where he was using Yoruba language to teach people from primary school to secondary school level. He was a Muslim. The earlier time, I mentioned something about Yoruba Historical Society that became the Ibadan School of History. It was started by Egbe Omoduduwa at that time, and it was led by Saburi Biobaku, who was also a Muslim. Professor Saburi Biobaku led the quest for Yoruba history. One of the major economic brains in the Awolowo government at that time was a man known as S.O. Gbadamosi. He's from Ikorodu. He was a Muslim. S.O. Gbadamosi. Maybe some of us might have heard about Rashid Gbadamosi. Rashid Gbadamosi was his son. These were Muslims. There was a particular Muslim who was a friend of Awolowo, Alhaji W. Elias, who was a very, very intimate friend of Awolowo at that time. Awolowo's sister was a Muslim. So those are on the personal. So when I said lack of knowledge, it appears as if, this is not about Christian versus Islam. There are Yoruba. Alhaji Dauda Adegbenro was the pillar that refused to allow the removal of Governor Adereni. He was a Muslim, Dauda Adegbenro, at that time. So these Muslims recognize, they practice their religion, but they also recognize their nationality. And they were able to put everything they had in the development of their national environment. It was after, when the military came in and everything started going scatter, and then we are Muslim, we are not Muslim, we are this, we are that, we are not that. Yes, the British came, Christian, and they were quote unquote Christianity, and then they were saying Muslims and this and that. But generally, within Yoruba land, Alhaji Babatunde Joseph, who was not even an action group man, who was not a supporter of Awolowo, developed the Daily Times into an icon in those days. That if you haven't read the Daily Times, you haven't read anything, not even newspaper. If you are a PhD student and you have not read Daily Times in a day, you will not have considered yourself to have read anything. That was Alhaji Babatunde Joseph, and so many others that we can mention. So these people did not relegate their nationality to the background, unlike what we have today. So that's why I mentioned that thing about knowledge, that it is very unfortunate that many Muslims today and many Christians don't even know about these things. Because if they had known about it, it will inform on the way they respond to issues. That yeah, and we always say in Yoruba land that in any Yoruba family, most Yoruba families, you find a Christian, Muslim, and Aborisha, and they all interact and intermingle and do whatever it is they want to do. There are many books that have been written on that. So ordinarily, that should not be a problem. But why it is a problem is because, one, we have no more control over our existence. So we are now part of a larger environment that we have no hand in creating. So when they created all the states, and all the states will now go to Abuja to collect allocation, and then everybody became, who is not in the good books of Abuja, will not receive this, will not receive that. Everybody started hiding behind one guy or the other. There was a time, I don't know whether it still exists in Nigeria, when if you have a company, you establish a company, and you want to get a loan from a bank, if you don't have an allergy from the north as a member of your board of directors, nobody, they won't even give you anything. So because you want to get a contract, you now have to run after some allergy in the north and put him on the board. And then you now start saying, we are Muslims, we are this, we are that, we are that. I listened to one program earlier today. One Alhaji Latif Owosheni, who is a top guy in the Islamic world, and he narrated his experience when he was at the National Supply Company, how he was edged out of the leadership of that company by this northern Muslim thing. So they also experience it. So if you experience it and you know that it is because the center is controlling you, because if it is us, Shebi Abiola, MKO Abiola, who was a Muslim, okay, that's even a good example. MKO Abiola, who was a Muslim, got a Western region scholarship to go and study accountancy. Afe Babalola, who was a Christian, did not get a scholarship. And that was one of the things he had against Awolowo, that Awolowo's government didn't give him scholarship and all that and all that. He was a Christian. Abiola was a Muslim. So what we are saying is that because we are able to be in control of our environment by and large, we are able to look at the individual character, individual legacy, while recognizing the social character of religious interaction. That was why Awolowo was able to set up a Pilgrims Welfare Commission for them. So we had ways that we can deal with these issues among ourselves. But when it has become a question of having to go and line up somewhere to get what you deserve, then you are one ògiri tó bá lanu ògiri tó bá lanu aláǹgbá ò lè ráyè wọbẹ̀. It is that crack that now allow some people from the north to now penetrate and start creating all kinds of things. And even when they were doing that, you will discover that when they want to have their Islamic stuff, they always subject them to what comes from Sokoto. Here was a Sultan of Sokoto who claimed openly, and I quote him, "I am the Sultan of Sokoto, the leader of Muslims in Nigeria, and the leader of Fulani in West Africa." That was what he said. So he didn't hide his Fulani-ness, he didn't hide his Islam. So why should a Yoruba Muslim not emphasize his Yoruba-ness as well as his Islam? So that's why I said, because we lack knowledge, don't let it happen to us. Because the knowledge is there, the information is there, we only need to look for it if we want to look for it. And that will now affect the way we relate with each other and with the issues on ground. In many instances, they will say when they want to do the Salah prayers and all that, that they don't allow Yoruba leaders to, even in Lagos, in Yoruba land, they don't allow Yoruba people to lead. That's what we hear. Whether it's true or not, I'm not sure. But we had that story. So, so there are so many things that are connected with the knowledge that we have about each other and about our circumstances. If we pursue it, this is not an appeal to let's have peaceful coexistence. Yeah, it's okay. We should have peace. We should do this. We should do that. Fine. But let us have the knowledge of the reality that we are faced with. That is what will induce peace. Because now that you know, your eyes are open. If I don't know, if I say it was Aliyu Babatunde Fafunwa that was promoting the language instruction, so it's not even a Yoruba nationalist, but a Muslim scholar who said, your language is the basis for your development. And what is your language? Yoruba language. So what has, so all these things, it is the knowledge that we have about ourselves, about our situation, about our reality, that will induce the peace that we say is eluding us. That is one. On the issue of minorities, it is also simple. On a personal level, when Awolowo was going to go to the center, he preferred Anthony Enahoro, who was from Ishon, Benin at that time, before the Midwest, to become the leader of the action group rather than Akintola. And not because he was simply from Ishon. Enahoro also had his own resume and all that. And they had their ideological compatibilities and the rest of it. But you see, it's not a question of, this guy is not a Yoruba, let me pick a Yoruba. No, because of the role that Enahoro had played and the standing that he had, yes, you are fit for this thing, go ahead and do it. That is one. That's just on their internal party level. On another level, when they started the what's it called, the free education program and stuff like that, and then they had the federal election in 1956 or something, it was the Ijesha and the Ekiti people that voted against Awolowo, and he won in the Midwest. What later became to the Midwest. Why? Because the Ekiti were saying that this guy is going to take our child away from this and that and that. But when they saw the effect of the free education policies, they ran back and rallied to him. Then, like I said, the champion of minority rights in Nigeria was Awolowo. So, and there is copious records of that. So there's no need to go into details. So when you have such a person, and when they were starting the action group at that time with the Egbe Omoduduwa and all the rest and all the rest, it gave room for the Otuedo in Benin City, Warri, and to a large extent, although the Shekiri are Yoruba people, the section of the Yoruba people there, but they can also be considered a minority. But they are also very active in the development of the action group. Alfred Iwane was one of the major intellectual forces within the action group at that. Not to talk of other. So the ability to address issues or contradictions within a particular society is dependent on the ability of that society to control itself. If you have the ability to control yourself, the ability and the capacity to dictate how your society moves, all contradictions that arise will be addressed within that context. But once you lose that ability and you are not subject to other forces, it is those forces that will control the way you resolve those problems. And those forces will be looking for ways to puncture your ability to act in defense or in progress of your community. And that's simply what. So that's why the regional uh, quest is necessary, mandatory, and must be achieved by, to quote Malcolm X, by any means necessary. But that's a different thing entirely. But essentially, that's what it is.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Odedeyi. Again, to all of our viewers, we are on Let's Talk About Jesus, where we discuss issues and challenges of life. So, as we are moving towards winding down on today's program, I want us to talk about referendum. We have talked about it on this program before. You have alluded to it today. And by the way, I hope that answered the question or concerns of those who were thinking in terms of religious base. Of course, if that's your thinking, Yoruba people has been living together peacefully for a long period of time. So in one family, you have different kind of religions, and they have no problem with each other whatsoever. And if you thinking in terms of being the minority in the event we have Yoruba nation, think again. But if you have questions that you don't think we have addressed or concerns, please feel free to send them to us. Go to the website or go to the email and send us your questions. You can send us email at viewpoint@solomonoluabiyi.com, or you can visit the website www.solomonoluabiyi.com. So back to the conversation on the referendum. I know we have talked about it before, but as we wind down today again, everything we have talked about today cannot be solidified without having to talk about referendums. I know because I signed it. I know because I've read it, and I will encourage everyone that are listening to me right now, or those that are watching right now, if you have not done so, go and sign the referendum on change.org. And I will also post the link into the media page. So please go, take your time, read it, sign it, pass it across to others. But to you, Mr. Odedeyi, this referendum, what is the step or what will happen in any time from now, even to know what we know now with the incident that happened overnight in
Yeah.
Ibarakwa,
Mm-hmm.
in your state?
Mm-hmm.
What could happen, or what number does this signing needs to get to before it could be forwarded to those in power right now?
Okay. What we have designed is that at every 5,000, we will send it to the assemblies and the governors. Now we are targeting. Okay, we are saying Yoruba people are 50 million worldwide. Okay, we are targeting that out of that 50 million. Don't laugh at what I'm going to say. We are targeting that. Okay, if we have 50 million people, we should be able to have 1 million signatures. I mean, that is a reasonable thing. It may be long or whatever. But what we are saying is that at every 5,000, we will send the bill and the result to the houses of assembly and the governors. So when we reach the first 5,000, we did that. We sent it to them to look at it, to do this, to do that. Now we are about 8,000 plus, and we are hoping to reach 10,000 shortly. So if we reach 10,000, we will send another batch. Look, this is where we are, and all that. And as we are sending it to them, we are not just doing so privately. Like we give it to them in the corner or we send it to them, and then we send the notice out to as many people that we have done this. So, and we update the petition on the site. That's change.org. We updated that we have done this, we have done that, we have done that. So the question is, how do we ramp it up? How do we increase both the tempo and the number of the signatories? So one of the things we have done is we are starting what we call a processor. We have produced a flyer that we will distribute in Yoruba land in West Africa or in Nigeria, where we have some canvassers on ground that will be able to talk one-on-one to people and ask them to do, to go up and sign up and do that. We should be able to start that next week. I mean, this week that we are in. And yes, we are also asking people, if you know anyone or you have contact with anyone that may be interested, let him or her get in touch with us, and we will, print, make photocopies and use it to distribute to people and let them sign up. And of course, whoever that we know that we can contact and tell and convince or discuss with, we continue doing that. So we are expecting to get to 10,000 shortly, when we will also send the same thing. But more importantly, we believe, although there's no hard evidence to prove that, but when crises get to this point, and with the Gongon, and I believe I read a report somewhere where Governor Akeredolu said it is now time, in response to the Gongon, that it's now time for the Amotekun people to have a regional approach to security. When they start talking like that, and that's what you have been saying, that all these this state, that will not go anywhere. We need a regional approach to this thing. So if they are talking about a regional approach, it is the same Governor Akeredolu that is talking about a consensus for Yoruba land. Where do we get consensus? Where have we sat down to arrive at a consensus? Obasanjo was talking about new federation, and everybody was talking. So you can see a convergence around, okay, we have a problem. How do we solve the problem? And by the grace of God, or to the glory of God, we have provided a pathway of solving the problem. The question is how to get people to key into it so that it becomes the topical issue in the day. Because once we start demanding for a regional government in Yoruba land, that will change the political calculus in Nigeria, one way or the other. And how do we intend to do that? We are not saying we want to remove any governor from office. All we are saying is that we want Yoruba people to vote whether all the states should become a region or not. Simple enough, yes or no. If we say yes, we should come under one regional government, and things are pointing in that direction. Even the security thing, like I said, they say they should have a regional command. So if you have a regional security command and we have a regional problem, I mean, we must have a regional solution to it. So when that has happened, then we set up a constitutional commission for Yoruba land. The governors will still be in place. They will still be doing their thing with Nigeria, no matter how they want to do it. But the Constitutional Commission will now be legally empowered to act on behalf of Yoruba land. That this is where we stand on any of these issues. That is what we can use to negotiate with anybody in Nigeria, with anybody on the international circuit. Even if the military takes over power and say they suspend this, they suspend that, you can't suspend our referendum. You can suspend anything else, but we have had ours, so you can't suspend it. And this is where we stand. So keep your suspension. So it's like an omnibus vehicle that answers to every question that comes. And my prayer is that it will be sustained up till the end to achieve the purpose for which it was set up.
Right. Thank you so much. And to everyone that are viewing or listening to us, this is Let's Talk About Jesus, and Mr. Odedeyi has graciously come on the program today, even as we look at Nigeria on fire. Who will rescue her? And with all the killing, the unrest, and the indirect war going on. So, this is where we're going to end today's program, but we will not end it without having to get like 30 seconds. If you are to, Mr. Odedeyi, if you are to come across the people in power today, as I always ask, of course, we never know the chances might present itself. What will you present to them? If you're to get the chance to meet with somebody like Akeredolu, Governor Akeredolu, who has indirectly made his opinion known, which I hope the Yoruba leader will or could take advantage of. What would you say? Just in 30 seconds, and then we'll bring the program to an end for the day.
Oh, simple. I'll just give him a copy of the bill for the Yoruba referendum and say, look, get your people to endorse this thing, not to sign the signature because he's the governor now. He can work directly with the House of Assembly. So get your House of Assembly to pass this bill and get your other fellow governors to do the same thing. Not only in Yoruba land, talk to your fellow governors in the south that you are talking about national dialogue to do the same thing in their regions, in their areas. Their condition may be different from ours, necessarily so. So they will take their conditions into consideration, but let them also have that approach that they should get together, organize their own referendum, and then that is the basis for relationship. That's all I will tell him.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Odedeyi, for coming on this program today. I want to thank everyone that has joined us today, that are going to be streaming this through the podcast of your choice. Until next time, you will get to see me again. I am Solomon Oluwabiyi. Thank you, and have a wonderful week ahead.